Okay, tonight is the 9th of August, and we come to Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 50. Maratajanya Sutta, the rebuke to Mara. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Venerable Mahamoggallana was living in the Bhaga country, Aksungsun Maragira, in the Besakala Grove, the deer park. Now, on that occasion, the Venerable Mahamoggallana was walking up and down in the open. And on that occasion, Mara, the evil one, went into the Venerable Mahamoggallana's belly and entered his bowels. Then the Venerable Mahamoggallana considered thus: why is my belly so heavy? One would think it full of beans. Thus he left the walk and went into his dwelling, where he sat down on a seat made ready. When he had sat down, he gave thorough attention to himself, and he saw that Mara, the evil one, had gone into his belly and had entered his bowels. When he saw this, he said, "Come out, evil one, come out, evil one. Do not harass the Tathagata, do not harass the Tathagata's disciple, or it will lead to your harm and suffering for a long time." Then Mara, the evil one, thought, "This recluse does not know me. He does not see me when he says that. Even his teacher would not know me so soon. So how can this disciple know me?" Stop here for a moment. So here, this last part, now you can see that Mara could not believe that so fast Mahamoggallana could see that he was inside his bowels. Because he says, even his teacher, the Buddha, would not know me so soon, so how can this disciple know me? This shows that Venerable Mahamoggallana's psychic power is extremely great. Then the Venerable Mahamoggallana said, "Even thus I know you, evil one. Do not think he does not know me. You are Mara, the evil one. You were thinking thus, evil one. This recluse does not know me. He does not see me when he says that. Even his teacher would not know me so soon, so how can this disciple know me?" Then Mara, the evil one, thought, "The recluse knew me. He saw me when he said that." Whereupon he came up from the Venerable Mahamoggallana's mouth and stood against the door bar. The Venerable Mahamoggallana saw him standing there and said, "I see you there too, evil one. Do not think he does not see me. You are standing against the door bar, evil one." Stop here for a moment. So this Mara, once he came out of Venerable Mahamoggallana, he was standing against the door bar and using his psychic power, at least he was trying to use his psychic power to make himself invisible to Venerable Mahamoggallana. But because Venerable Mahamoggallana's psychic power was greater, he could still see him. And Venerable Mahamoggallana continued, "It happened once, evil one, that I was a Mara named Dusi, and I had a sister named Kali. You were her son, so you were my nephew. Now on that occasion, the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahant Sammasambuddha, had appeared in the world. The Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahant Sammasambuddha, had an auspicious pair of chief disciples named Vidura and Sanjiva. Among all the disciples of the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahant Sammasambuddha, there was none equal to the Venerable Vidura in teaching the Dhamma. That was how the Venerable Vidura came to have the designation Vidura." Let's stop here for a moment. This Vidura means unrivaled, incomparable. Then the Venerable Sanjiva, gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut, entered without difficulty upon the cessation of perception and feeling. It happened once, evil one, that the Venerable Sanjiva had seated himself at the root of a certain tree and entered upon the cessation of perception and feeling. Some cowherds, shepherds and ploughmen passing by saw the Venerable Sanjiva sitting at the root of a tree, having entered upon the cessation of perception and feeling, and they thought, "It is wonderful, sirs, it is marvelous. There is this recluse sitting here dead. Let us cremate him." Then the cowherds, shepherds and ploughmen collected grass, wood and cow dung, and having piled it up against the Venerable Sanjiva's body, they set fire to it and went on their way. Stop here for a moment. So here when a monk enters the cessation of perception and feeling, the consciousness, all the 6 consciousness stops. Breathing stops, the heart stops. So he appears like a dead person. That's why these people thought we'll give him a good send-off and pile all the wood on top of him and set it afire. Now, evil one, when the night had ended, the Venerable Sanjiva emerged from the attainment. He shook his robe, and then it being morning, he dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, he went into the village for alms. The cowherds, shepherds, and ploughmen passing by saw the Venerable Sanjiva wandering for alms, and they thought, "It is wonderful, sirs, it is marvelous. This recluse who was sitting there dead has come back to life." And that was how the Venerable Sanjiva came to have the designation Sanjiva. Stop here for a moment. So apparently this word Sanjiva means come back to life. So you see, because he had entered this cessation of perception and feeling, the fire did not hurt him, did not harm him, and even his robes were not burned. Such the power of this state. Then evil one, the Mara Dusi considered thus: there are these virtuous monks of good character, but I do not know their coming or their going. Let me now take possession of the Brahmin householders, telling them, "Come now, abuse, revile, scold, and harass the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are abused, reviled, scolded, and harassed by you, some change will come about in their minds, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity." Then evil one, the Mara Dusi, took possession of those Brahmin householders, telling them, "Come now, abuse, revile, scold, and harass the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are abused, reviled, scolded, and harassed by you, some change will come about in their minds, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity." Then when the Mara Dusi had taken possession of the Brahmin householders, they abused, reviled, scolded, and harassed the virtuous monks of good character thus: "These bald-pated recluses, these swarthy menial offspring of the kinsman's feet, claim we are meditators, and with shoulders drooping, heads down, and all limb, they meditate, premeditate, out-meditate, and mismeditate." Stop here for a moment. Here, bald-pated recluses means bald-headed recluses, and swarthy means dark, menial offspring of the kinsman's feet. This kinsman refers to Brahma, because this Brahmin, they say that they are offspring of Brahma. They were born from the Brahma's upper part, the head, whereas the other people are born, the other castes are born from Brahma's feet. So they look down on the others. Just as an owl on a branch waiting for a mouse meditates, premeditates, out-meditates, and mismeditates, or just as a jackal on a river bank waiting for fish meditates, premeditates, out-meditates, and mismeditates, or just as a cat by a doorpost or a dustbin or a drain waiting for a mouse meditates, premeditates, out-meditates, and mismeditates, or just as a donkey unladen standing by a doorpost or a dustbin or a drain meditates, premeditates, out-meditates, and mismeditates, so too these bald-pated recluses, these swarthy menial offspring of the kinsman's feet, claim, "We are meditators, and with shoulders drooping, heads down, and all limb, they meditate, premeditate, out-meditate, and mismeditate." Now, evil one, on that occasion, most of those human beings, when they died, reappeared on the dissolution of the body after death in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. Let's stop here for a moment. So here it's interesting to note this last part, that Mara, according to this sutta, took possession of those Brahmins and told them to revile the monks, and they did. And after that, most of them were reborn in the woeful plains of rebirth, which shows that even though Mara influenced them, but because they used their own will to do what they did, revile the monks, so they had to suffer for it. So sometimes it's like this. Sometimes when we want to do something, we have like the angel telling us to do something good, and then the Mara on the other side telling us to succumb to our temptation and do something wrong. So it's up to us to choose. We have the free will. But if you are weak, then you listen to Mara, and then you have to pay for it. Mara does not pay for it. You have to pay for it. Then the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, addressed the monks thus: Monks, the Mara Dusi has taken possession of the Brahmin householders, telling them, Come now, abuse, revile, scold, and harass the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are abused, reviled, scolded, and harassed by you, some change will come about in their mind, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity. Come, monks, abide pervading 1 quarter with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to yourselves. Abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Abide pervading 1 quarter with the mind imbued with compassion, with the mind imbued with joy, with the mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So, evil one, when those monks had been thus advised and instructed by the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, then gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut, they abided pervading 1 quarter with the mind imbued with loving kindness, with the mind imbued with compassion, with the mind imbued with joy, with the mind imbued with equanimity, without hostility and without ill will. Then evil one, the Mara Dusi, considered thus: Though I do as I am doing, still I do not know the coming or the going of these virtuous monks of good character. Let me now take possession of the Brahmin householders, telling them. I stop here for a moment. So just now, the Brahmins, being influenced by Mara, scolded and reviled the monks. And then the monks, the Buddha taught them, instead of getting angry, give them the opposite. Give them loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. The 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 divine abidings. So it's like fighting fire with water. We cannot fight anger with anger. The only way to fight it is with loving kindness, just like fire with water. Then evil one, the Mara Dusi, considered thus: Though I do as I am doing, still I do not know the coming or the going of these virtuous monks of good character. Let me now take possession of the Brahmin householders, telling them, Come now, honor, respect, revere, and venerate the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are honored, respected, revered, and venerated by you, some change will come about in their minds, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity. Then evil one, the Mara Dusi, took possession of those Brahmin householders, telling them, Come now, honor, respect, revere, and venerate the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are honored, respected, revered, and venerated by you, some change will come about in their minds, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity. Then when the Mara Dusi had taken possession of the Brahmin householders, they honored, respected, revered, and venerated the virtuous monks of good character. Now evil one, on that occasion, most of those human beings, when they died, reappeared on the dissolution of the body after death in a happy destination, even the heavenly world. I stop here for a moment. So here you see the reverse. The Brahmin householders being influenced by Mara to praise and revere and venerate the monks. They did just that. And as a result of doing that, most of them after death were reborn in the heavenly world, which also shows that because they did the right thing, then they are rewarded for it. And you notice here, at first, the Mara was trying to get an opportunity because these monks, they were meditating and having very good samadhi. They were fully in control of their mind. So because they were in control of the mind, this Mara could not influence them. So the Mara wanted to find an opportunity. So at first, he made them angry. He scolded them, got the lay people to scold them. So he thought, if the monks react, that means when they are scolded, they get angry. Then when they get angry, then their concentration is lost. Then Mara can find a way to get into them. This is the weak point. But they fail, Mara fail. So now he's telling the lay people to venerate and honor the monks. So hopefully when the monks are getting all this veneration, he's thinking maybe their minds are affected. They become puffed up, they become arrogant and all that. And then that is another occasion for Mara to infiltrate them. But see what the Buddha did. Then evil one, the blessed one, Kakusanda, Arahan, Sammasambuddha, addressed the monks thus. Monks, the Mara Dusi has taken possession of those Brahmin householders, telling them, come now, honor, respect, revere, and venerate the virtuous monks of good character. Then perhaps when they are honored, respected, revered, and venerated by you, some change will come about in their minds, whereby the Mara Dusi may find an opportunity. Come monks, abide contemplating foulness in the body, perceiving repulsiveness in nutriment, perceiving disenchantment with all the world, contemplating impermanence in all volitions. So evil one, when those monks had been thus addressed and instructed by the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arhan, Sammasambuddha, then gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut, they abided contemplating foulness in the body, perceiving repulsiveness in nutriment, perceiving disenchantment with all the world, contemplating impermanence in all volitions. Stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha is teaching his monks not to be influenced by all the honor and veneration and to perceive repulsiveness and disenchantment with the world, seeing everything as impermanent, so not to be attached to anything. So in which case, again, Mara could not move their minds. Then when it was morning, the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahan, Sammasambuddha, dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, he went into the village for alms with the Venerable Vidura as his attendant. Then the Mara Dusi took possession of a certain boy, and picking up a stone, he struck the Venerable Vidura on the head with it and cut his head. With blood running from his cut head, the Venerable Vidura followed close behind the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahan, Sammasambuddha. Then the Blessed One, Kakusanda, Arahan, Sammasambuddha, turned around and looked at him with the elephant look. This Mara Dusi knows no bounds. And with that look, the evil one, Mara Dusi, fell from that place and reappeared in the great hell. Now, evil one, there are three names for the great hell: the hell of the 6 bases for contact, the hell of the impalement with stakes, and the hell to be felt for oneself. Then, evil one, the wardens of hell came up to me and said, "Good sir, when stake meets stake in your heart, then you will know I have been roasting in hell for 1,000 years." Stop here for a moment. So here you see, Mara got so frustrated, he could not influence the minds of the monks, that when the Buddha, Kakusanda, went on Pindapata with his disciple Vidura, he entered a boy and picked up a stone and knocked the Venerable Vidura so hard on the head that the blood was running. A lot of blood was running down. But in spite of the cut head and all the blood running down, you see this Venerable Vidura, being such a tame person, he still followed close behind the Buddha on Pindapat. So when you go on Pindapat, don't walk too far away. Always walk behind the senior monk. So you see, the Buddha Kakusanda, he thought this Mara has gone too far already. So he turned around, the whole body turned around, just like an elephant. An elephant cannot just turn the neck around when he wants to see behind. The whole body got to turn around. It's called the this elephant look. So the Buddha turned his whole body around and stared at Mara, and with that, Mara just died and reappeared in the great hell. This one is like the other day we heard about this Sachaka, this boaster, debater who went to argue with the Buddha, and then the Buddha asked him the question, he could not answer. Asked him a second time, he refused to answer, and the Buddha told him, if you don't answer the third time, your head will be smashed into 7 pieces. And then he saw this Deva with a thunderbolt ready to smash his head. So the implication is that if he continues, refuses to answer, his head will be smashed. So in the same way, the Buddha Kakusanda turned around, and when he stared at Mara, he was like telling Mara, that's enough, don't do any more. But because Mara was so stubborn, still wanted to annoy the Buddha and his disciples, so he died immediately and went to hell. So in this case, can you say the Buddha is not compassionate? You have to think for yourself. So you see, when he went into this great hell, there's a description of it in some other sutta. He's impaled with 5 stakes. And these stakes go through his body. So he's told, when stake meets stake in your heart, these 2 iron bars will slowly enter his body. He cannot move and keep entering his body. When the 2 stakes meet at his heart, then you'll know you've been here for 1,000 years. For many a year, evil one, for many a century, for many a millennium, I roasted in that great hell. For 10 millennia, I roasted in the auxiliary of that great hell, experiencing the feeling called that of emergence from ripening. My body had the same form as a human body, evil one, but my head had the form of a fish's head. What can hell be well compared to, wherein Dusi roasted, assailant of Vidura, the disciple, and the Brahmin Kakusanda, stakes of steel, even 100, each one suffered separately. These can hell be well compared to, wherein Dusi roasted, assailant of Vidura, the disciple, and the Brahmin Kakusanda. Dark one, you have much to suffer by assaulting such a monk, an enlightened one's disciple, who directly knows this fact. In the middle of the ocean there are mansions aeon-lasting, sapphire shining, fiery gleaming, where with a clear translucent luster, where iridescent sea nymphs dance in complex intricate rhythms. Dark one, you have much to suffer, who directly knows this fact. I am one who, when exhorted by the enlightened one in person, shook Migara's mother's palace with his toe, the Sangha watching. Dark one, you have much to suffer, who directly knows this fact. I am one who, wielding firmly strength of supernormal powers, shook all Vijayanta palace with his toe to incite the gods. Dark one, you have much to suffer, who directly knows this fact. I am one who in that palace posed to Saka this question. Do you know then, friend, deliverance due to cravings full destruction? Whereupon Saka then answered, truly to the question asked him, Dark one, you have much to suffer, who directly knows this fact. I am one who thought of posing Brahma this question in Sudama hall in heaven. Is there still found in you, friend, the wrong view you once accepted? Is the radiance of heaven clearly seen by you as passing? Brahma then answered my question truthfully and in due sequence. There is found in me no longer, sir, the wrong view that once I held. All the radiance of heaven I now clearly see as passing. I disclaim my prior claim that it is permanent, eternal. Dark One, you have much to suffer, who directly knows this fact. I am one who, by liberation, has touched the peak of Mount Simaru, visited India and Puba Videha, and all the regions of the earth. Dark One, you have much to suffer by assaulting such a monk, an enlightened one's disciple, who directly knows this fact. There has never been found a fire which intends, let me burn the fool. But a fool who assaults a fire burns himself by his own doing. So it is with you, O Mara. By assaulting the Tathagata, like a fool who plays with fire, you only burn yourself alone. By assaulting the Tathagata, you generate much demerit. Evil one, do you imagine that your evil will not ripen? Doing thus, you store up much evil which will last long, O Endmaker. Mara, shun the enlightened one, play no more your tricks on monks. So the monk chastened Mara in the Besakala thicket, whereupon the somber spirit disappeared right there and there. So this sutta Mahamoggallana is telling this Mara that he himself, Venerable Mahamoggallana, once was Mara Dusi, and he did annoy the Buddha Kakusanda and his disciples, and as a result he went to hell and suffered for a long time. Now we come to the second part, the middle 50 discourses, Majjhima, Panassa, Pali. Sutta number 51, Kandaraka Sutta, to Kandaraka. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Champa on the banks of the Gagara lake with a large sangha of monks. Then Pesa, the elephant driver's son, and Kandaraka, the wanderer, went to the Blessed One. Pesa, after paying homage to the Blessed One, sat down at one side, while Kandaraka exchanged greetings with the Blessed One. And when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he stood at one side. Standing there, he surveyed the sangha of monks, sitting in complete silence, and then he said to the Blessed One, "It is wonderful, Master Gotama. It is marvelous how the sangha of monks has been led to practice the right way by Master Gotama. Those who were blessed ones, Arahant, Sammasambuddha in the past, at most only led the sangha of monks to practice the right way, as is done by Master Gotama now. And those who will be blessed ones, that means Bhagawa, Arahant, Sammasambuddha in the future, at most will only lead the sangha of monks to practice the right way, as is done by Master Gotama now." And the Buddha said, "So it is, Kandaraka, so it is. Those who were blessed ones, Arahant, Sammasambuddha in the past, at most only led the sangha of monks to practice the right way, as is done by me now. And those who will be blessed ones, Arahant, Sammasambuddha in the future, at most will only lead the sangha of monks to practice the right way, as is done by me now." Kandaraka, in this sangha of monks, there are monks who are arahants with taints destroyed, who have lived the holy life, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, reached the true goal, destroyed the factors of being, and who are completely liberated through final knowledge. In this sangha of monks, there are monks in higher training, of constant virtue, living a life of constant virtue, sagacious, living a life of constant sagacity. They abide with their minds well established in the four intense states of recollection, satipatthana. What for? Here, Kandaraka, a monk abides contemplating in the body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating feelings and feelings, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating mind in the mind, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating Dhamma as in the Dhamma. He is contemplating Dhamma in the Dhamma, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. When this was said, Pesa, the elephant driver's son, said, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous how well the four Satipatthanas have been made known by the Blessed One for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana. From time to time, Venerable Sir, we white-clothed lay people also abide with our minds well established in these four Satipatthanas. Here, Venerable Sir, we abide contemplating the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous how amid man's tangle, corruption and deceptions, the Blessed One knows the welfare and harm of beings. For humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. Venerable Sir, I can drive an elephant to be tamed, and in the time it takes to make a trip back and forth in Champa, that elephant will show every kind of deception, duplicity, crookedness and fraud he is capable of. But those who are called our slaves, messengers and servants, behave in one way with the body, in another way by speech, while their minds work in still another way. It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous how amidst man's tangled corruption and deceptions, the Blessed One knows the welfare and harm of beings. For humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. Stop here for a moment. So this Pesa is an elephant driver's son. So he trains elephants. So he says, when he is trying to tame this elephant, the elephant will show all kinds of tricks. It's very straightforward. You can see how the elephant thinks in the ways he acts. But human beings are very different. Human beings are very crooked. They can say one thing, but they might feel another. And so he says that humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. And the Buddha said, so it is, Pesa, so it is. Humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. Pesa, there are four kinds of persons to be found existing in the world. What for? Here a certain person torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself. Here a certain kind of person torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others. Here a certain kind of person torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself. And he also torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others. Here a certain kind of person does not torment himself or pursue the practice of torturing himself, and he does not torment others or pursue the practice of torturing others. Since he torments neither himself nor others, he is here and now hungerless, extinguished and cool, and he abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is talking about four kinds of persons. One who tortures himself, the second one tortures others, the third one tortures himself and others, the fourth one does not torture himself and does not torture others. Which of these four kinds of persons satisfies your mind, Pesa? And he said, the first three do not satisfy my mind, Venerable Sir, but the last one satisfies my mind. But Pesa, why don't the first three kinds of persons satisfy your mind? Venerable Sir, the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself, torments and tortures himself though he desires pleasure and recoils from pain. That is why this kind of person does not satisfy my mind. And the kind of person who torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others, torments and tortures others who desire pleasure and recoil from pain. That is why this kind of person does not satisfy my mind. And the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself, and who also torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others, torments and tortures himself and others, both of whom desire pleasure and recoil from pain. That is why this kind of person does not satisfy my mind. But the kind of person who does not torment himself or pursue the practice of torturing himself, and who does not torment others or pursue the practice of torturing others, who, since he torments neither himself nor others, is here and now hungerless, extinguished and cooled, and abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. He does not torment and torture either himself or others, both of whom desire pleasure and recoil from pain. That is why this kind of person satisfies my mind. And now, Venerable Sir, we depart. We are busy and have much to do. Now is the time, Pesa, to do as you think fit. Then Pesa, the elephant driver's son, having delighted and rejoiced in the Blessed One's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, keeping him on his right, he departed. Soon after he had left, the Blessed One addressed the monks thus: Monks, Pesa, the elephant driver's son, is wise. He has great wisdom. If he had sat a while longer until I had expounded for him in detail these 4 kinds of persons, he would have greatly benefited. Still, he has already greatly benefited, even as it is. This is the time, Blessed One, this is the time, Sublime One, for the Blessed One to expound in detail these 4 kinds of persons. Having heard it from the Blessed One, the monks will remember it. Then, monks, listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, Venerable Sir, the monks replied. The Blessed One said, Monks, what kind of person torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself? Here a certain person goes naked, rejecting conventions, licking his hands, not coming when asked, not stopping when asked. He does not accept food brought or food specially made or an invitation to a meal. He receives nothing from a pot, from a bowl, across a threshold, across a stick, across a pestle, from 2 eating together, from a pregnant woman, from a woman giving suck, from a woman lying with a man, from where food is advertised to be distributed, from where a dog is waiting, from where flies are buzzing. He accepts no fish or meat. He drinks no liquor, wine, or fermented brew. He keeps to 1 house, to 1 morsel. He keeps to 2 houses, to 2 morsels, up to 7 houses, 7 morsels. He lives on 1 saucerful a day, on 2 saucerfuls a day, up to 7 saucerfuls a day. He takes food once a day, once every 2 days, once every 3 days, once every 4 days, up to once every fortnight. He dwells pursuing the practice of taking food at stated intervals. He is an eater of greens, or millet, or wild rice, or hide parings, or moss, or rice bran, or rice scum, or sesame flour, or grass, or cow dung. He lives on forest roots and fruits. He feeds on fallen fruits. He clothes himself in hemp mixed cloth, in shrouds, in refuse rags, in tree bark, in antelope hide, in strips of antelope hide, in kusa grass fabric, in bark fabric, in wood shavings fabric, in head hair wool, in animal wool, in owl's wings. He is one who pulls out hair and beard, pursuing the practice of pulling out hair and beard. He is one who stands continuously, rejecting seats. He is one who squats continuously, devoted to maintaining the squatting position. He is one who uses a mattress of spikes. He makes a mattress of spikes his bed. He dwells pursuing the practice of bathing in water 3 times daily, including the evening. Thus, in such a variety of ways, he dwells pursuing the practice of tormenting and mortifying the body. This is called the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself. I'll stop here for a moment. So here you can see these external ascetic practices which are unbeneficial, no help to the holy life. What kind of person, monks, torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others? Here a certain person is a butcher of sheep, a butcher of pigs, a fowler, a trapper of wild beasts, a hunter, a fisherman, a thief, an executioner, a prison warden, or one who follows any other such bloody occupation. This is called the kind of person who torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others. What kind of person, monks, torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself, and also torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others? Here some person is a head-anointed noble king, or a well-to-do Brahmin. Having had a new sacrificial temple built to the east of the city, and having shaved off his hair and beard, dressed himself in rough hide, and greased his body with ghee and oil, scratching his back with a deer's horn, he enters the sacrificial temple together with his chief queen and his Brahmin high priest. There he lies down on the bare ground with the grass on it. The king lives on the milk in the first teat of a cow with a calf of the same color, while the chief queen lives on the milk in the second teat, and the Brahmin high priest lives on the milk in the third teat. The milk in the fourth teat they pour into the fire, and the calf lives on what is left. He says thus, let so many bulls be slaughtered for sacrifice. Let so many bullocks be slaughtered for sacrifice. Let so many heifers be slaughtered for sacrifice. Let so many goats be slaughtered for sacrifice. Let so many sheep be slaughtered for sacrifice. Let so many trees be felled for the sacrificial post. Let so much grass be cut for the sacrificial grass. And then his slaves, messengers, and servants make preparations, weeping with tearful faces, being spurred on by threats of punishment and by fear. This is called the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing himself, and who torments others and pursues the practice of torturing others. What kind of person, monks, does not torment himself or pursue the practice of torturing himself, and does not torment others or pursue the practice of tormenting others? The one who, since he torments neither himself nor others, is here and now hungerless, extinguished and cooled, and abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. Here, monks, a Tathagata appears in the world, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. He declares this world with its gods, its maras and its brahmas, this generation with its recluses and brahmins, its princes and its people, which he has himself realized by direct knowledge. He teaches the Dhamma, good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing, and he reveals a holy life that is utterly perfect and pure. A householder or householder's son, or one born in some other clan, hears that Dhamma. On hearing the Dhamma, he acquires faith in the Tathagata. Possessing that faith, he considers thus: household life is crowded and dusty. Life gone forth is wide open. It is not easy while living in a home to lead the holy life, utterly perfect and pure as a polished shell. Suppose I shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. On a later occasion, abandoning a small or a large fortune, abandoning a small or large circle of relatives, he shaves off his hair and beard, puts on the yellow robe, and goes forth from the home life into homelessness. Having thus gone forth and possessing the monk's training and way of life, abandoning the killing of living beings, he abstains from killing living beings. With rod and weapon laid aside, gentle and kindly, he abides compassionate to all living beings. Abandoning the taking of what is not given, he abstains from taking what is not given, taking only what is given, expecting only what is given. By not stealing, he abides in purity. Abandoning in celibacy, he observes celibacy, living apart, abstaining from the vulgar practice of sexual intercourse. Abandoning false speech, he abstains from false speech. He speaks truth, adheres to truth, is trustworthy and reliable, one who is no deceiver of the world. Abandoning malicious speech, he abstains from malicious speech. He does not repeat elsewhere what he has heard here in order to divide those people from these, nor does he repeat to these people what he has heard elsewhere in order to divide these people from those. Thus he is one who reunites those who are divided, a promoter of friendships who enjoys concord, rejoices in concord, delights in concord, a speaker of words that promote concord. Abandoning harsh speech, he abstains from harsh speech. He speaks such words as are gentle, pleasing to the ear, and lovable, as go to the heart, are courteous, desired by many, and agreeable to many. Abandoning gossip, he abstains from gossip. He speaks at the right time, speaks what is fact, speaks on what is good, speaks on the Dhamma Vinaya. At the right time, he speaks such words as are worth recording, reasonable, moderate, and beneficial. He abstains from injuring seeds and plants. He practices eating only in one part of the day, abstaining from eating at night and outside the proper time. He abstains from dancing, singing, music, and theatrical shows. He abstains from wearing garlands, smartening himself with scent, and embellishing himself with unguents. He abstains from high and large couches. He abstains from accepting gold and silver, money. He abstains from accepting raw grain. He abstains from accepting raw meat. He abstains from accepting women and girls. He abstains from accepting men and women slaves. He abstains from accepting goats and sheep. He abstains from accepting fowl and pigs. He abstains from accepting elephants, cattle, horses, and mares. He abstains from accepting fields and land. He abstains from going on errands and running messages. He abstains from buying and selling. He abstains from false weights, false metals, and false measures. He abstains from cheating, deceiving, defrauding, and trickery. He abstains from wounding, murdering, binding, brigandage, plunder, and violence. Stop here for a moment. This is a list of the sila, moral conduct, that a monk is supposed to practice, but this is only the basic. He becomes content with robes to protect his body and with alms food to maintain his stomach. And wherever he goes, he sets out taking only these with him. Just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings as its only burden, so too the monk becomes content with robes to protect his body and with alms food to maintain his stomach. And wherever he goes, he sets out taking only these with him. Possessing this aggregate of noble virtue, he experiences within himself a bliss that is blameless. Stop here for a moment. So you see, if a monk practices good moral conduct, then he finds nothing to be remorseful for, and with that his bliss arises. He's very happy, and that is a necessary condition to be able to meditate, to be happy with a clear conscience. On seeing a form with the eye, he does not grasp at its signs and features, since if he left the eye faculty unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He guards the eye faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. Similarly, on hearing a sound with the ear, smelling an odor, tasting a flavor, touching a tangible, cognizing a mind object, he does not grasp at its features and signs, since if he left the faculties unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. He practices the way of the restraint. He guards the faculties. He undertakes the restraint of the faculties. Possessing this noble restraint of the faculties, he experiences within himself a bliss that is unsullied. He becomes one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, who acts in full awareness when looking ahead and looking away, who acts in full awareness when flexing and extending his limbs, who acts in full awareness when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and board, who acts in full awareness when eating, drinking, consuming food and tasting, who acts in full awareness when defecating and urinating, who acts in full awareness when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. Possessing this aggregate of noble virtue and this noble restraint of the faculties, and possessing this noble mindfulness and full awareness, he resorts to a secluded resting place, the forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, a ravine, a hillside cave, a charnel ground, a jungle thicket, an open space, a heap of straw. I stop here for a moment. So you see, in this practice of a monk's life, when he has progressed to a certain extent, he's supposed to go and live alone in a secluded place. On returning from his alms round, after his meal, he sits down, folding his legs crosswise, setting his body erect, and establishing mindfulness before him. Abandoning covetousness for the world, he abides with the mind free from covetousness. He purifies his mind from covetousness. Abandoning ill will and hatred, he abides with the mind free from ill will. Compassionate for the welfare of all living beings, he purifies his mind from ill will and hatred. Abandoning sloth and torpor, he abides free from sloth and torpor. Percipient of light, mindful and fully aware, He purifies his mind from sloth and torpor. Abandoning restlessness and remorse, he abides unagitated, with the mind inwardly peaceful. He purifies his mind from restlessness and remorse. Abandoning doubt, he abides having gone beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states. He purifies his mind from doubt. Having thus abandoned these 5 hindrances, imperfections of the mind that weaken wisdom, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born, with delight and pleasure born of seclusion. Again, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, he enters upon and abides in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind, etc. And then he enters upon and abides in the third jhana, and then the fourth jhana. When his concentrated mind is thus purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs it to the knowledge of the recollection of past lives. He recollects his manifold past lives, 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, 100,000, aeons of world contraction, aeons of world expansion. Thus, with the aspects and particulars, he recollects his manifold past lives. When his concentrated mind is thus purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs it to the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings. With the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing. He understands how beings pass on according to their actions. With his concentrated mind thus purified, etc., he directs it to the knowledge of the destruction of the taints. He understands as it actually is. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. He understands as it actually is. These are the taints. He understands as it actually is. These are the origin of the taints, cessation of the taints, and the way leading to the cessation of the taints. When he knows and sees thus, his mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, and from the taint of ignorance. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge it is liberated. He understands birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. This monk is called the kind of person who does not torment himself or pursue the practice of torturing himself, and who does not torment others or pursue the practice of torturing others. The one who, since he torments neither himself nor others, is here and now hungerless, extinguished and cool, and abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. This is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. It's the end of the sutta. So here, this later part of the sutta, the Buddha just described in more detail the 4 types of persons, and the last type is the monk, and the Buddha gives some detail of the practice of the monk. That is what we call conduct, charana. Sutta 52, Atthakanagara Sutta, the man from Atthakanagara. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Venerable Ananda was living at Beluva Gamaka near Vesali. On that occasion, the householder Dasama of Atthakanagara had arrived at Pataliputta for some business or other. Then he went to a certain monk at Kukuta's park, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and asked him, "Where does the Venerable Ananda now live, Venerable Sir? I wish to see the Venerable Ananda." And the reply was, "The Venerable Ananda is living at Beluva Gamaka near Vesali, householder." When the householder Dasama had completed his business at Pataliputta, he went to the Venerable Ananda at Beluva Gamaka near Vesali. After paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and asked, "Venerable Ananda, has any one thing been proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, his unliberated mind comes to be liberated, his undestroyed taints come to be destroyed, and he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. And Venerable Ananda said, yes, householder, one such thing has been proclaimed by the Blessed One. What is that one thing, Venerable Ananda? Here, householder, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with delight and pleasure born of seclusion. He considers this and understands it thus. This first jhana is conditioned and volitionally produced, but whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. Standing upon that, he attains the destruction of the taints. But if he does not attain the destruction of the taints, then because of that desire for the Dhamma, that delight in the Dhamma, with the destruction of the 5 lower fetters, he becomes one due to reappear spontaneously in the pure abodes, Suddhavasa, and there attain final Nibbana without ever returning from that world. This is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, who knows and sees, Arahant Samasambuddha, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, his unliberated mind comes to be liberated, his undestroyed taints comes to be destroyed, and he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. Stop here for a moment. So here, this layman is asking the Venerable Ananda, what is that one thing? If a monk cultivates, then it is possible for him to attain liberation. And you can see here, Venerable Ananda says, the first jhana. So, in the Buddha's teachings, you find the jhanas are of extreme importance, because the Buddha says very clearly that unless we have attained the jhanas, we are covered with the 5 hindrances. And when we are covered with the 5 hindrances, we cannot see clearly. And when you cannot see clearly, you cannot understand clearly. And when you cannot understand clearly, you cannot let go of the Mara's bait, all the sensual pleasures, all the worldly pleasures in the world. That's why the most important condition from here actually is trying to ask, what is the most important condition? And Venerable Ananda says the first jhana. Because of so many conditions, he's just asking Venerable Ananda to name one. To name one means the most important one. So Venerable Ananda says the first jhana. Again, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, a monk enters and abides in the second jhana. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. Again, with the fading away as well of delight, a monk enters upon and abides in the third jhana. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage. Again, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, a monk enters and abides in the fourth jhana. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. Again, a monk abides pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third and fourth. He abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He considers this and understands it thus. This deliverance of here it says deliverance of mind through loving kindness. This deliverance of mind, ceto vimutti, you can say it's also liberation by mind. Liberation of mind of loving kindness, or radiation of loving kindness by the mind. So let's use liberation by mind of loving kindness. Is conditioned and volitionally produced. But whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. Standing upon that, he attains the destruction of the taints. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute thus, This deliverance by mind of compassion is conditioned and volitionally produced. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. Again, a monk abides pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with joy. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage. Again, a monk abides pervading the four quarters with equanimity. He considers and it does. This deliverance by mind of equanimity is conditioned, and from that he attains the destruction of the taints. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One. Again, with the complete surmounting of perceptions of form, with the disappearance of perceptions of sensory impact, etc., a monk attains and abides in the base of infinite space. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage that he had not attained before. Again, by completely surmounting the base of infinite space, a monk enters in and abides in the base of infinite consciousness. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, he attains a supreme security from bondage. Again, by completely surmounting the base of infinite consciousness, where there is nothing, a monk enters and abides in the base of nothingness. This too is one thing proclaimed by the Blessed One, Arahant Sammasambuddha, wherein if a monk abides diligent, ardent and resolute, his unliberated mind comes to be liberated, his undestroyed taints comes to be destroyed. When Venerable Ananda had spoken, the householder Dasama of Atthakanagara said to him, Venerable Ananda, just as if a man seeking one entrance to a hidden treasure came all at once upon 11 entrances to a hidden treasure, so too, while I was seeking one door to the deathless, I have come all at once to hear of 11 doors to the deathless. Just as if a man had a house with 11 doors, and when that house caught on fire, he could flee to safety by any one of these 11 doors. So I can flee to safety by any one of these 11 doors to the deathless. Venerable Sir, these sectarians will even seek a teacher's fee for their teachers. Why shouldn't I make an offering to the Venerable Ananda? Then the householder Dasama of Atthakanagara assembled the Sangha of monks from Pataliputta and Vesali, and with his own hands he served and satisfied them with various kinds of good food. He presented a pair of cloths to each monk, and he presented a triple robe to the Venerable Ananda, and he had a dwelling worth 500 kahapana built for the Venerable Ananda. That's the end of the sutta. You notice here, Venerable Ananda, when asked what is needed to attain liberation, he mentions 11 states of samadhi. This again stresses the point in the suttas that samadhi, concentration, attaining one-pointedness of mind is absolutely necessary for liberation. Also, you see this Venerable Ananda came up to this base of nothingness. He did not include the base of neither perception nor non-perception. But some other suttas, I think they include the base of neither perception nor non-perception, and also beyond that, cessation of perception and feeling. All this can lead to liberation. This is a very important sutta in the sense that it shows very clearly that the very important condition for liberation is the various stages of samadhi, concentration. So we stop here for tonight. we consider one by one. Say, for example, there is a form that comes before your eyes, and your eyes are in good condition. Then seeing consciousness arises. And then when there is contact of the tree, then we see. But we like to think in terms of in and out. But why should there be an in and out? Because everything is in the mind. The mind, because of karma, past life karma, certain forms appear before the eye. For example, if a person's karma is very good, then beautiful forms appear before the eye. This is all conjured by the mind. And we seem to think, we seem to see the forms as outside of us. But according to quantum physics, everything that appears outside is a projection of inside. So it only appears outside, but it is the mind that is creating this show, what they call Maya in Hinduism. That there is this world. So it only appears like the outside. But for example, like you consider when we are dreaming at night, and then we see ourselves in that dream. Is it outside of us? It is not outside of us. It's inside our mind. The dream is inside our mind. So similarly, right now, even though the world appears outside, this is all a play of the mind. Inside and outside is just the mind deluding us. It's because the mind deludes us that we see ourselves in the world, and we see the world seems to be outside our body. But the whole thing, the whole world, is all inside our consciousness, just consciousness creating this play of life. So in that sense, actually there is no inside and outside. It just appears like that. But even if you have one-pointedness of mind, if you don't understand the Dhamma, also you will not understand everything is in the mind. Holy Indian holy man, he said, the ordinary person sees himself in the world, enlightened person sees the world in himself. The whole world is inside of him. The Vinaya says they are not allowed to stay in the same place, in the sense of some people interpret as under the same roof. So if it's a different roof, technically it is okay. But in practice, it is not okay lah. Because if a monk and a lay person stay together, for example, when we started, a lot of the time I was alone in this monastery. So if another lay woman comes and wants to stay, even in another kuti, it's not proper because people will see and people will start to think and gossip lah. That's one thing. Secondly, if the monk does not have is not in good control of himself, then he may break the precept lah. Actually, that's why, especially for a new monk, the Buddha said generally new monk should, especially during the vasa, stay in a place with other monks for some more senior monks to guide him . But the Buddha gave exceptions like if a monk is old and he thinks he does not have much time left and he wants to strive, then he can stay alone, but not with another woman. Yes, if he can see the danger there, then he should ask them to tell the lady to move away. The problem is new monk may not see danger. Layman or monk?
Then his Thero monks are disgusted with him. But somehow the Buddha said, announced said that he had reached certain level. Why is it so?
You must have read it from a Mahayana story. Not a true story. Not possible during the Buddha's time.
One of the guy who actually drink a lot and then he become a Sotapanna. And then probably because Buddha say that because he had been listening to the Dhamma for a very long time, that's why when he passed away he become a Sotapanna. He said
there is
why how did is it like how he do it?
It might be that he did not drink a lot. If he drank a lot, he would not be in control of his mind. So possibly there are a lot of lay Buddhists, especially like Westerners, they like to drink a bit of wine with their dinner or something. So if you don't drink too much, you are in control of your mind. But if you are not in control of your mind, it's not possible to become an Arya.
On the same point you just mentioned, when you have some wine dinners, even though you may take a glass or two, you are not intoxicated. But when you meditate, somehow it's different. So you as a lay person, if you want to keep the precepts, if we are drinking but we are not intoxicated, are we actually breaking the precept? Because especially for some of us, for our health, you find it, then it's useful.
Yes, but you see, it depends on how well you want to keep your precept. If you are earnest about keeping your precept, then you know there is such a precept, then you won't want to drink. Unless it is necessary. For example, some people, they are in the sales line. They have to entertain customers, have to bring out customer at night for dinner and all that. Then they find it difficult to refuse to drink at all. In that case, but even then, knowing that there is such a precept, they won't take hard liquor. They might take shandy or beer or something instead of whiskey on the rocks or something.
Just to remind, the alcohol content is quite high. You're drinking in moderation.
So it's up to individual. That's why these precepts, it's not like commandments. Thou shalt not drink. We are not like that. Our training precepts is we undertake to train ourselves to abstain from taking intoxicants. So Buddhism is a very, not so extremist religion. Buddhism is very lax. Up to you to practice at your own pace. Do what you can. If you understand more of the Dhamma, then you are more strict with yourself. If you understand less of the Dhamma, you think cincai boleh .
Next, Sutta ended up with these good food for the monks.
Which one?
Good food.
Yeah.
And devotees like to give good food to the monks. Is it not spoiling us, the monks?
I think whether you get good food or not is your karma. If your karma is no good, even you wish for good food, also you won't get. So just let karma take its course, let karma take its course. Don't fight. Yeah. The Buddha's attitude is don't greed for it, don't look for it. Just accept whatever comes. Good or bad, you just take it with an unmoving mind.
So I look forward to it. But that is not a luxury cycle.
In the Sutta, when Venerable Monk passed away, Ananda always, or somebody will come to Buddha and ask, where has this Venerable gone to? And Buddha will say whether he's an arahant or whatever. And Buddha also said that either a Atthakanagara or a person equivalent to him can see or know where a person is reborn or what his achievement is or his achievement is. Does that mean that the arahant can also pronounce to another person and he is Sutta or wants to Temoh or so on?
But then, not all arahants can do that. Only those with great psychic power, like Venerable Anuruddha or Venerable Mahamoggallana, where they can see heaven and hell and all this. Otherwise, even Venerable Sariputta, the greatest wisdom, he cannot see.
So in that context, as Sutta instruct that Buddha pronounced living being that is alive as a Sotapan or Mansukana or non-human.
Generally, the Buddha will not say when a person is alive what level he is, especially if he's an Arya. The Buddha will not say, because the Buddha, in the suttas we find, and the Vinaya, that the Buddha doesn't want the disciples to be complacent. So if they think they're already Arya, then they think no need to strive anymore. I'm on the on the.
So in that context, is it allowable in the Vinaya for elder monk to pronounce to his disciple that is a Sotapanna and so on?
No, according to the Vinaya, it's not proper, not proper for a monk because in the monk's Vinaya there was this precept against talking of a monk's attainment actually came about because there was a famine and the monks were not getting enough to eat. So this group of a few monks they thought up this idea. Why don't I praise you as an Arahant? You praise me as an Arahant. And then when the lay people get to know that we are all Arahants, then they will give us a lot of good food. So this is what they did. So the lay people gave them a lot of good food. Even the lay people didn't have enough to eat, also will give it to them. So after that the Buddha. So from here you can see actually it's not allowed. Not only to talk about your own attainment, even to talk of your fellow monks' attainment also is not allowed. Okay, shall we end here?